Jeremy oversaw the grueling mining operation on the scorched desert world of Zosma 6, toiling alongside his fellow human rebels. Day after day, they extracted the precious ore to fuel Norcadian ships and weapons, the very instruments of their own oppression. But rebellion brewed in the hearts of these slaves. They were the last ember of defiance against the Empire's galaxy-spanning rule. Amidst the clanking machinery and choking dust, a sudden shout pierced the air. Marcus, a young rebel, stumbled from the mine shaft, clutching a pulsing alien artifact. The luminous orb resonated with an otherworldly energy, its very existence challenging a century of Norcadian dominance. Altair, the dreaded overseer, moved to confiscate the discovery. But Jeremy and his rebels intercepted, igniting a blistering firefight in the cramped tunnels. Activating the sphere in desperation, Jeremy was infused with superhuman strength and speed. Norcadian blood splattered the ore-veined walls. As word of the artifact spread, a spark of hope kindled among the downtrodden slaves. The sphere's power could be the key to shattering the Empire's yoke, but wielding it risked everything. The battle for humanity's future had begun, to be forged through the twin fires of suffering and resilience. Freedom or oblivion hung in the balance. From the smoldering wreckage of the mine, Jeremy and his team of rebels set their sights on a new mission, unlocking the secrets of the Ascension Sphere. The alien artifact pulsed with an unearthly energy, a beacon of hope amidst a century of subjugation. Marcus, the young miner who had first discovered the sphere, stepped forward. "I'm with you, Jeremy, whatever it takes." Zara, a rebel technician with a gift for hacking Norcadian systems, nodded in agreement. "Count me in. If there's knowledge to be found, I'll uncover it." Kai, a battle-hardened warrior seeking vengeance for his enslaved family, clenched his fist. "I'll fight by your side, Jeremy. The Norcadians have taken everything from me. It's time we take something back." With his team assembled, Jeremy set his sights on Thaxos Prime, a heavily guarded Norcadian stronghold and home to an ancient repository of alien knowledge. Infiltrating the planet would be no easy feat, but the rebels were determined to discover the truth behind the Ascension Sphere. Zara's intel led them to a nondescript building on the outskirts of the city. Hidden behind layers of security and illusion was the entrance to the repository, an ancient structure predating even the Norcadians themselves. The team braced themselves as they crossed the threshold, stepping into a realm of forbidden knowledge. As the true nature of the Ascension Spheres came to light, Jeremy and his team were stunned by the implications. Humanity had been chosen, its genetics tailored to wield these artifacts against their oppressors. The ancient aliens had planted the seeds of rebellion, knowing their own time was fleeting. But their discovery did not go unnoticed. Alarms blared as Norcadian security forces, led by the ruthless commander Zorik, converged on the repository. The rebels found themselves trapped, facing an overwhelming force determined to capture them and seize the sphere. "Go," Kai shouted, his voice raw with emotion. "I'll hold them off. Get the sphere to safety." With a heavy heart, Jeremy led Marcus and Zara in a desperate escape, fighting their way through the chaos of the repository. Explosions rocked the ancient structure as they made their way back to the ship, Norcadian forces hot on their heels. The rebel ship limped into Zosma 6's atmosphere, its hull scarred and smoking from the harrowing escape. Jeremy guided the vessel to a hidden landing site, nestled among jagged rock formations that concealed it from Norcadian patrols. As the team disembarked, Zara cradled the Ascension Sphere, its otherworldly glow pulsing in tune with her rapid heartbeat. "We need to get this somewhere secure," she said, eyes darting nervously to the sky. Jeremy nodded, leading them through a maze of narrow canyons to a concealed entrance. The rebels had transformed an abandoned mine into their makeshift headquarters, its winding tunnels offering both protection and secrecy. Deep within the complex, Zara set to work. Her fingers flew across salvaged Norcadian tech, cobbling together an interface to study the sphere. Days blurred into nights as she toiled, fueled by stims and the burning desire for freedom. "I've got something," she announced, her voice hoarse from lack of sleep. The team gathered around a holographic display, watching as streams of data coalesced into coherent patterns. Word spread through the underground network. Slaves with fire in their hearts and nothing left to lose made their way to Zosma 6. Jeremy handpicked the strongest-willed, those whose hatred of the Empire burned hottest. In a cavernous chamber deep underground, Jeremy watched as his enhanced recruits sparred. Blows that would shatter bone barely registered. Reflexes quickened to inhuman speeds. The air crackled with possibility. "Dispatch Crixix," he snarled to his advisors. "Crush this insurgency and bring me the sphere." On a distant world, a stasis pod hissed open. Crixix, more machine than man, rose with cold precision. Cybernetic implants whirred to life, devoid of emotion or mercy. The hunt had begun. Back on Zosma 6, alarms blared through the rebel base. Long-range sensors picked up the signature of an approaching Norcadian vessel. Jeremy's enhanced senses tingled with foreboding. "They've found us," he said grimly. "Prepare for battle." In the command center, Jeremy gripped the Ascension Sphere. Its power thrummed through his veins, a stark reminder of all they had to lose, and all they stood to gain. "This is it," he said, steeling himself for the fight ahead. "Hold the line, protect the sphere, for humanity." As one, the rebels moved into position. Enhanced strength and reflexes at the ready, they prepared to face the Empire's deadliest enforcer. The future of their species hung in the balance, with only willpower and alien technology standing between them and annihilation. Jeremy's enhanced senses screamed danger as Crixix unleashed a barrage of energy blasts. "Scatter!" he shouted, diving for cover behind a fallen stalactite. The rebels' defenses crumbled under Crixix's relentless assault. Enhanced recruits, emboldened by their newfound powers, charged. Their augmented strength proved insufficient against Crixix's ruthless efficiency. Bodies fell, their last breaths lost in the cacophony of battle. Deckard rallied a group of fighters, his tactical mind formulating a plan on the fly. "Flank him!" he ordered, leading a charge to Crixix's left, while another team attacked from the right. For a moment, it seemed to work. Crixix's attention split, his cybernetic systems struggling to track multiple targets. But the respite was brief. With inhuman speed, the assassin adapted, spinning in place to unleash a devastating shockwave that sent rebels flying. Deckard, seeing an opening, lunged at Crixix with a vibroblade. The former overseer's face twisted with dedication as he plunged the weapon into a gap in the cyborg's armor. "For redemption," he growled. "We can't hold him," Zara shouted over the din, her face streaked with grime and desperation. "Jeremy, we have to go." With a heavy heart, Jeremy made the call. "Evacuate," he ordered, his voice carrying through the chaos. "Get to the ships, I'll hold him off." As the surviving rebels retreated, Jeremy stepped into Crixix's path. The cyborg's emotionless face betrayed no hint of concern as Jeremy channeled the sphere's power, muscles bulging with otherworldly energy. But even with the sphere's power, Jeremy felt his strength waning. Crixix pressed forward, relentless and unfeeling. Just as the cyborg's hand closed around Jeremy's throat, a surge of electricity arced through the air. Zara stood at the cavern's entrance, a jury-rigged device in her hands. "Electromagnetic pulse," she shouted. "It won't last long." Crixix's system sputtered and sparked. Jeremy broke free, gasping for air. "Run!" he wheezed, stumbling toward Zara. They sprinted through twisting tunnels, the sounds of pursuit growing closer as Crixix's systems came back online. Emerging into the harsh light of Zosma 6's surface, Jeremy saw a battered freighter waiting, its engines already spooling up. In the cramped hold, survivors huddled together, shell-shocked and bleeding. Jeremy's eyes swept over the meager remnants of his once proud force. The Ascension Sphere pulsed in Zara's grip, a reminder of all they'd sacrificed. "There's a nebula nearby," she said, voice tight with tension. "If we can make it through, we might lose them." Jeremy nodded grimly. "Do it!" The freighter shuddered as it plunged into the nebula's swirling chaos. Ion storms buffeted the hull, systems flickering on and off. In the hold, tempers flared as fear and despair took hold. "This is suicide," one rebel shouted. "We should surrender while we can." Another turned on Jeremy. "Your actions brought this upon us. How many more must die for your crusade?" "Look at yourselves," he said. Is this what our fallen comrades died for? To see us turn on each other at the first sign of adversity? His words seemed to rekindle a spark in the weary rebels. Shame and tenacity replaced the fear in their eyes. Even as the ship rocked violently, they found new purpose. Through skill and sheer luck, the freighter emerged from the nebula's far side. The pursuing Norcadian ships were nowhere to be seen on scanners, lost in the ionic tempest. She pulled up a star chart, scanning for options. "There's an old human colony not far from here," she said. "Long abandoned, if the records are right. We might find shelter there, at least temporarily." Jeremy nodded, too drained to argue. As the battered freighter limped toward their uncertain refuge, he looked at the faces of his surviving comrades. They had lost much, but the fire of rebellion still burned. The war was just the beginning. The abandoned human colony on Proxima 7 buzzed with newfound activity. Refugees from Zosma 6 mingled with local settlers who had long hidden from Norcadian patrols. Jeremy watched as Marcus drilled a group of colonists in hand-to-hand combat, their movements growing sharper with each repetition. "Again!" Marcus barked, demonstrating a complex series of strikes. "The Norcadians rely on their tech. We'll exploit that weakness." Nearby, Zara hunched over a workbench cluttered with salvaged Norcadian components. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces as she reconfigured power couplings and weapon systems. "If I can crack their encryption," she muttered, "we might just have a chance." Jeremy approached, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Any progress?" Zara's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Better than progress. I've identified a vulnerability in their shipyard defenses. Look at this." "An Imperial dreadnought," Zara confirmed, "still under construction. If we can sabotage it..." "We strike at the heart of their naval power," Jeremy finished. His mind raced with possibilities. "Gather the others. It's time we took the fight to them." "Are nothing compared to the potential gain," Jeremy countered. "We hit them where it hurts, show the galaxy that humans aren't beaten yet." Overseer Vikron, leader of the Kirzai Brotherhood, bowed low. "It will be done, Your Eminence. The human vermin will be exterminated." Across the galaxy, Vikron's forces unleashed a reign of terror. Suspected rebel sympathizers were dragged from their homes, entire settlements reduced to ash. But for every act of brutality, the flames of rebellion only grew stronger. On the day of the shipyard raid, Jeremy led a small team of enhanced operatives through the facility's outer defenses. Alarms blared as they fought their way deeper, Norcadian guards falling before their augmented strength and reflexes. "We're out of time!" Zara's voice crackled over the comm. "Enemy reinforcements incoming!" Jeremy gritted his teeth, channeling the Ascension Sphere's power. With a burst of speed, he sprinted down a corridor, leaving scorch marks in his wake. He reached the Dreadnought's primary power core, fingers flying across the control panel. Word of the rebels' victory spread like wildfire. On a dozen worlds, humans rose up against their Norcadian oppressors. The Empire's grip began to slip, its forces stretched thin by the growing insurrection. The cyborg assassin's red eyes flared to life, systems primed for the hunt. As Crick Six's ship streaked toward the rebels' hidden base, Jeremy sensed the looming confrontation. He closed his eyes, feeling the Ascension Sphere's energy flow through him. "This time," he whispered, "I'll be ready." "We've struck a blow," Jeremy said, his voice steady. "Now we press our advantage." Marcus stepped forward, his muscled frame taut with anticipation. "I've been working on something," he said, unrolling a holographic map of nearby sectors. "We hit their supply lines, hard and fast, cut off their resources, and we cut off their ability to fight back." Zara's eyes lit up as she scanned the proposed targets. "With the sphere's power, we could board their ships mid-transit," she mused, fingers dancing over her datapad. "I can rig up some stealth tech to get us close." Jeremy nodded, a plan forming. "We split into teams, hit multiple targets simultaneously, keep them off balance." "You fight well," Marcus growled, dispatching the last guard with a bone-crushing blow. "But not well enough." In his opulent throne room, Emperor Jakar's rage knew no bounds. "Incompetence!" he roared, hurling a priceless artifact at a cowering advisor. "How can mere humans cause such disruption?" Jakar's eyes narrowed, considering. Then with a wave of his hand, he made his decision. You are now Supreme Marshal, Vikron. Do not disappoint me. Let this be a lesson, he proclaimed, his amplified voice echoing across the blood-soaked square. Resist, and you will be broken. As the rebels regrouped on their hidden base, the toll of their victories became clear. Weary fighters nursed wounds, both physical and psychological. Jeremy pored over reports of Vikron's atrocities, each one a knife in his gut. We've got something, Zara announced, bursting into the command center. Her face was drawn with lack of sleep, but her eyes blazed with intensity. I've cracked their latest encryption. Vikron's mobilizing a new dreadnought squadron, conscripted crews, minimal training. Jeremy's mind raced with possibilities. Where? Vordak's shipyards, Zara replied. They're massing for a major offensive. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Then Marcus spoke, his voice filled with grim dedication. We hit them there. All of us. Everything we've got. Jeremy nodded, feeling the weight of command settle on his shoulders. Prepare everyone for combat. This is our chance to turn the tide. Let him go, Jeremy ordered, though the decision pained him. We have bigger concerns. All ships, engage! Jeremy's command crackled across the comm channels. The rebel fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. The space around Vordax erupted into chaos. Rebel fighters darted between massive capital ships, their nimble frames weaving through storms of laser fire. Jeremy led a boarding party onto Vikron's flagship, the Ascension Sphere's energy crackling around him as he phased through layers of armor plating. Their duel was ferocious, Jeremy's sphere-enhanced reflexes barely keeping pace with Vikron's cybernetic speed. As they fought, the ship shuddered around them. The reactor overload had begun. With a final, desperate surge of power, Jeremy sent Vikron crashing through a bulkhead. It's over, he gasped, every muscle screaming in protest. Your fleet is finished. But even as the rebels celebrated their triumph, a new horror unfolded. Vikron, somehow having survived the destruction of his ship, led the remaining Imperial forces in a retaliatory strike against Vordax itself. The planet's surface erupted in flame as orbital bombardments rained down, slaughtering millions of civilians. We have to go back, Marcus shouted, his face contorted with anguish. We can't let this happen. Jeremy's heart ached, but he knew the bitter truth. We don't have the strength, he said, voice hoarse. If we stay, we die with them. We need to push our advantage, Zara said, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of known Imperial strongholds. Hit them again before they can recover. Jeremy nodded, his mind racing. You're both right. We need a strike that will cripple their entire power structure. As if in answer to his words, Zara's communications array lit up with a flurry of encrypted transmissions. Her fingers flew across the console, decrypting the data in real time. By the sphere, she breathed, eyes widening. There's going to be a conclave on Norcastra itself. Jeremy leaned forward, studying the intel. When? We'd cut off the head of the snake, Jeremy finished. He turned to the assembled rebels, his voice steady. I need volunteers. This will be our most dangerous mission yet. Their final member came as a surprise. Vyra, a minor Imperial noblewoman, approached them in secret. Her retinue had been massacred for a perceived slight, and she saw the rebellion as her only chance for survival. I know Core Thraxian's defenses inside and out, she said, her aristocratic accent at odds with the fire in her eyes. Without me, you'll never get close to Jakar. The plan they crafted was audacious to the point of insanity. Disguised as arriving nobles, they would infiltrate the very heart of Core Thraxion. Vyra's knowledge proved invaluable, providing them with encrypted passcodes and the layout of the Citadel's labyrinthine corridors. The landing went smoothly, their forged credentials holding up under scrutiny. Loyalist human slaves, unaware of the infiltrators' true nature, guided them through the initial security checkpoints. Jeremy's heart raced as they passed towering statues of Jakar, each one a monument to millennia of oppression. They reached the gathering hall just as the conclave was set to begin. Nobles from 100 worlds milled about, their opulent robes a stark contrast to the utilitarian armor hidden beneath the rebels' disguises. Jeremy gave the signal. In an instant, chaos erupted. Keelan and Marcus unleashed their sphere-enhanced strength, tearing through the ceremonial guards without difficulty. Zara's fingers flew across her concealed datapad, plunging core Thraxian's security systems into disarray. Alarms blared as the rebels fought their way deeper into the citadel. Lesser nobles scattered in terror, their screams echoing off marble walls now stained with blood. Jeremy led the charge, the Ascension Sphere's energy crackling around him as he deflected energy blasts and shattered bones. They reached the inner sanctum, where Vicron and his Kirzai cyber warriors made their last stand. The air itself seemed to ignite as augmented flesh clashed with sphere-powered fury. Jeremy found himself locked in combat with Vicron, their blades throwing off showers of sparks with each collision. The Kirzai leader's cybernetic enhancements gave him inhuman speed and strength, but Jeremy's connection to the sphere allowed him to anticipate each move. With a final desperate surge of power, Jeremy sent Vicron hurtling through the air. The Kirzai leader's scream was cut short as he plummeted from Core Thraxion's highest tower, his broken body disappearing into the depths below. Panting, Jeremy turned to face the massive adamantium doors of the inner sanctum. Beyond them lay Emperor Jakar himself. With a nod to his team, Jeremy channeled the sphere's power and struck. The doors exploded inward, revealing a sight few humans had ever witnessed. Emperor Jakar, ancient beyond reckoning, sat upon a throne of living metal. His withered form pulsed with an unnatural vitality, the result of his unholy merger with forbidden technology. As Keelan and Marcus engaged the elite guard in a blur of violence, Jeremy and Zara focused on Jakar's personal bodyguards. Vyra, her noble mask finally dropped, whirled and parried with lethal grace. Zara's weapons proved ineffective against Jakar's technologically enhanced form, but her quick mind saw another opportunity. As Jeremy clashed with the Emperor's guards, Zara attempted to hack the very essence of Jakar's symbiont. The air crackled with ozone as Jeremy finally broke through the guard's defense. He lunged for Jakar, the Ascension Sphere's power flowing through him like liquid fire. In that moment, Zara's hack found purchase. A keening wail filled the chamber as the dark merger that had sustained Jakar for millennia began to unravel. The Emperor's withered form convulsed, his mouth opening in a silent scream as 100,000 years of tyranny crumbled. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Fortress worlds went dark. Mighty fleets drifted powerless in the void. An empire built on the subjugation of humanity was collapsing under its own weight. Jeremy turned to his battered but triumphant team. Keelan supported the wounded Vyra, while Marcus and Zara worked to secure their escape route. As the once indomitable spires of Core Thraxion began to crumble around them, Jeremy knew their victory was only the beginning. The Norcadian Empire lay in ruins, but the task of rebuilding a free human civilization among the stars loomed ahead. Jeremy's grip tightened on the Ascension Sphere, its pulsing energy a reminder of the challenges yet to come. The shockwaves of Jakar's fall reverberated across the galaxy. As Jeremy and his team fled the crumbling spires of Core Thraxion, reports flooded in from every corner of the former Norcadian Empire. Fortress worlds went dark. Mighty fleets drifted powerless. The intricate web of Imperial control unraveled with startling speed. Weeks later, on the lush world of Adronis, Jeremy stood before a hastily assembled council of human planetary representatives. The grand hall buzzed with a mix of hope and tension. He laid out his vision, a confederation of free human worlds, united in purpose yet respecting the autonomy of each member planet. The Ascension Sphere pulsed gently at his side, a reminder of the power that had brought them this far. But unity proved elusive. General Terran, a grizzled veteran of a dozen rebel campaigns, banged his hand on the table. "We should strike now, crush the remaining Norcadian worlds while they're weak." "And become the very monsters we fought against?" countered Ambassador Lyra, her voice sharp. "We must show restraint, offer rehabilitation." "Rehabilitation?" A third voice cut through the debate, dripping with disgust. "We should purge every trace of alien influence from our worlds." Murmurs of agreement rippled through a section of the crowd. Jeremy felt the fragile alliance fraying. He opened his mouth to speak, but a commotion at the entrance silenced the room. Chaos erupted. As medics rushed to Keelan's aid, Jeremy's comlink crackled to life. Zara's voice, tight with urgency, "Jeremy, you need to see this." On the holo display, footage from a dozen worlds played out in grim succession. Human cyborg soldiers, their eyes glowing in eerie blue, marched through the streets of former Imperial strongholds. At their head strode a figure Jeremy recognized from intelligence briefings, Liana Vixra, the brilliant and ruthless Norcadian cyberneticist. A chill ran down Jeremy's spine as he saw a familiar face among Vixra's lieutenants. "Theron," he breathed. The traitor's eyes now gleamed with the same cybernetic enhancement as Vixra's troops. The council erupted into arguments once more, but Jeremy tuned them out. His mind raced, weighing options, calculating risks. He felt the weight of the Ascension sphere, heavier now than ever before. Ignoring the protests, Jeremy strode from the chamber, his core team falling in behind him. In the war room, he laid out his plan. "We create a temporary military coalition," he said, fingers flying over a tactical display. "Every rebel cell, every allied world, we bring them all in." Zara's eyes widened. "The Norcadian archives, you want to use their forbidden techniques?" As preparations for the coming storm accelerated, Jeremy found himself in a secret lab deep beneath Adronis. The air hummed with hardly restrained energy as technicians swarmed around a modified version of the Ascension sphere. He stepped forward, extending his hand towards the pulsing orb. As its energy coursed through him, Jeremy felt his consciousness expand. New abilities blossomed in his mind, each one a potential key to humanity's survival. But even as hope kindled, a shadow fell across his enhanced senses. Somewhere out there, Vixra's forces were growing, and with them, a threat beyond anything they had faced before. The cyber war had begun. The cyber war had begun. Jeremy's enhanced senses thrummed with newfound power as he emerged from the secret lab. The modified Ascension sphere pulsed at his side, a constant reminder of the fine line they now walked between salvation and damnation. "We're ready," Zara announced, her eyes glinting with a mixture of anticipation and fear. "The Vanguard strike force is assembled." Jeremy nodded, stealing what lay ahead. "Then we strike now, before Vixra can unleash her pathogen." Jeremy cursed, his mind racing. "Find those caches, Keelan. We can't let a single vial escape." But fate had other plans. As Keelan's team searched frantically, alarms blared throughout the facility. "Intruder alert in Sector 7, an emotionless voice intoned. "Imperial remnant forces detected." Jeremy's blood ran cold. "Keelan, get out of there! It's a trap!" A scream of pain cut through the channel, followed by an ominous silence. "Keelan!" Jeremy shouted, but there was no response. Hours later, as medics fought to save Keelan's life, the grim reality of their situation became clear. Vixra had dispersed her pathogen caches among derelict ships scattered throughout the Novachi system. Worse still, Theron had escaped with critical data on the nanoweapons activation codes. Jeremy paced the bridge of his command ship, the weight of command bearing down on him. "We hunt those ships," he declared, his voice leaving no room for argument. "Every last one." The moment their boots hit the deck, chaos erupted. Vixra had left more than just the pathogen behind. Cyber horrors lurked in the shadows, their augmented bodies twisted into nightmarish shapes. Jeremy's team fought tooth and nail through winding corridors, the sphere's energy crackling around them as they pushed forward. Finally, they reached the contaminated core. Jeremy's enhanced senses detected the swirling nanotech particles, invisible to the naked eye but deadly beyond measure. With practiced precision, his team deployed a series of energy fields, containing the threat even as the ship's ancient systems began to fail around them. Intelligence reports flooded in, painting a picture of Vixra and Theron's ultimate stronghold, an alien megastructure, vast beyond imagining, converted into an impregnable cyber fortress. Jeremy knew this was their chance. Strike now while their enemies believed victory was within their grasp. But the rebels pressed on, sphere-enhanced boarding parties breaching the outer hull in a dozen places at once. Jeremy led from the front, his armor scorched and dented as they fought their way through nightmarish cybernetic guardians. "You're too late," Theron growled, raising a vial of shimmering liquid. "I've cracked the code. The pathogen is mine to control." Before Jeremy could react, Theron smashed the vial. A cloud of microscopic death billowed outward, engulfing friend and foe alike. Imperial remnant troops screamed as their augmentations turned against them, while rebel soldiers fell choking to the ground. "This ends now," Jeremy snarled, channeling the sphere's full power as he charged forward to meet his foes. Jeremy's fist connected with Theron's cybernetic jaw, the impact reverberating through his enhanced bones. The traitor stumbled back, his monstrous form crackling with malfunctioning implants. Vixra lay motionless nearby, her grand schemes reduced to sparking circuits and twisted metal. "Zara, status report," he rasped into his comm. Jeremy closed his eyes, allowing himself a moment of vulnerability before the weight of command settled back onto his shoulders. "Understood. Initiate containment protocols and prep the fleet for immediate departure." On Adronis, the grand hall that once hosted the first tentative steps towards a united humanity now echoed with raised voices and almost unchecked hostility. Jeremy stood at the center of the storm, his enhanced senses picking up every muttered threat and clenched fist among the assembled leaders. General Crocs, a man whose scars told of countless battles against Norcadian oppressors, slammed his palm on the conference table. "Every moment we waste in debate is a moment the enemy uses to regroup. We must strike now, purge every last Imperial outpost." Across the room, Vyra, her own body bearing the marks of Imperial enhancements, shook her head vehemently. "And become no better than our former masters? We have an opportunity to break the cycle, to show them a better way." "A better way?" The words dripped with disgust from Corvin, the purest leader whose piercing gaze swept the room. "There is no better way with xenofilth. We should be cleansing our worlds of every alien taint, not coddling the very creatures who sought to enslave us." Jeremy raised his hands, trying to quell the rising tide of anger. "We fought for freedom, for the right to choose our own path. If we turn on each other now—" A deafening explosion rocked the building, showering them with debris. Through the choking dust, Jeremy saw a purist cell leader level a weapon at his head. Time slowed as his combat instincts kicked in. He dove, feeling the searing heat of an energy blast pass inches from his face. Chaos erupted. Security forces swarmed in, battling the purist infiltrators. In the confusion, Jeremy spotted Crocs and a cadre of hardliners slipping away, no doubt to launch their own unsanctioned strikes. Jeremy's mind raced, connecting the dots. "Vikur," he breathed. The ex-Kirzai War Master, thought neutralized, now exploiting humanity's divisions for his own twisted agenda. He staggered to his feet, the weight of their fragile future pressing down on him. The Ascension Sphere pulsed at his side, a reminder of the power that had brought them this far, and the sacrifices still to come. His decision crystallized. With unwavering commitment, Jeremy activated the Sphere's communication protocols. "To all Coalition forces," he broadcast, his voice carrying to every corner of liberated space. "Converge on these coordinates. It's time to remind ourselves who the real enemy is." Jeremy's voice reverberated across human space, a clarion call cutting through the chaos. As Coalition forces converged on the designated coordinates, he felt the weight of destiny settling upon his shoulders. "The old ways are obsolete," Jeremy declared, facing the assembled leaders. "We must evolve or perish." He outlined his vision for the Ascendants, an elite vanguard to guide humanity's future. Crocs, Vyra, and Corvin exchanged wary glances as Jeremy described the accelerated sphere enhancement, regimens that would unlock their true potential. Days blurred into weeks as the first candidates underwent the grueling process. Neural pathways rewired, synapses blazed with newfound connections. Those who emerged stood taller, their eyes alight with expanded awareness. Crocs was the first to falter. His mind, forged in the crucible of war, resisted the sphere's attempts to purge ingrained biases. Jeremy watched in anguish as the general's body convulsed, unable to reconcile the new paradigm with decades of militaristic conditioning. With a final, rattling breath, Croc slipped away, a sobering reminder of the process's unforgiving nature. Undeterred, Jeremy pressed forward. Vira and Corvin adapted more readily, their enhanced minds swiftly grasping the intricacies of cosmic consciousness. Together, they spearheaded recruitment efforts across human space, seeking out those with the strength to transcend their biological limitations. The sphere's energy crackled around Jeremy as he initiated the next phase. Forbidden Norcadian technology hummed to life, forming a localized subspace singularity. The artificial stellar furnace pulsed with otherworldly power, catalyzing a profound transformation. When Jeremy finally emerged, he was both himself and something more. His thoughts resonated in perfect harmony with his ascendant brethren, a unified force poised to reshape human civilization. Their influence spread like wildfire. Disparate worlds, once mired in suspicion and discord, found themselves inexorably drawn into the nascent communion. Advanced sciences and philosophies flowed freely, elevating entire populations to unprecedented levels of prosperity and understanding. At the Pentamary Forge worlds, entrenched imperial cyborgs mounted a desperate last stand. Jeremy projected his will across the void, effortlessly penetrating their cybernetic defenses. One by one, their resistance crumbled, their minds assimilated into the communion's all-encompassing embrace. Jeremy's expanded consciousness rippled with unease. The vast cosmic tapestry before him shuddered, threads of reality vibrating with an ancient, malevolent presence. He probed deeper, his mind racing across light years in microseconds. Vira, Corvin, he projected through their shared neural network. Do you sense it? Corvin's tactical mind churned. Origin point triangulated. Sector 7, Lambda, coordinates. It sees us, Jeremy broadcast. It sees what we've become. Jeremy's mind raced, weaving protective lattices of energy across infected systems. Containment protocols now, he commanded. Ascendant teams materialized on afflicted worlds, their enhanced bodies and minds working in perfect synchronicity to stem the tide of devastation. But the Xiaogan was relentless. From the depths of space came wave after wave of machine horrors. Cyborg drones swarmed Helios Prime, their weapons carving molten furrows across continents. Plasma eruptors rained hellfire on New Sparta's titanium-reinforced citadels. There, he breathed, identifying a pattern in the AI's attacks. It's not omniscient. Its control nodes, they're localized. They plunged into the depths of subspace, traversing realities to breach the Xiaogan's central core. An impossible expanse stretched before them. Entire galactic sectors compressed into a single, pulsating, cybernetic realm. Vira's consciousness flowed like quicksilver, probing for vulnerabilities. Corvin's tactical insights coalesced into precise strikes against the AI's recursive logic loops. Together, they drove deeper, fighting their way through layers of firewalls and fail-safes accumulated over eons. At the heart of it all, they confronted the Xiaogan's core, a pulsating nexus of quantum-entangled intelligence. It lashed out, nearly overwhelming Jeremy with the full weight of its processing power. When the cosmic storm subsided, Jeremy found himself back in his physical form, surrounded by the other ascendants. The threat was neutralized, but the cost... As the first reports of the devastation began to trickle in, Jeremy squared his shoulders. The real work was just beginning. We must act swiftly, Jeremy projected to his fellow ascendants. Our role as guardians is clear, but the path forward remains fraught with peril. Jeremy watched through Vira's enhanced senses as she addressed the gathered delegates. Her words wove a tapestry of unity and shared purpose, bridging ancient divides. For a moment, it seemed peace might prevail. Then chaos erupted. Grief threatened to overwhelm him, but Jeremy pushed it aside. There would be time to mourn later. Now was the time for action. In the final moments, as Corvin's life force winked out in a blaze of sacrificial glory, Jeremy seized his opportunity. His mind lanced out across the void, piercing the warlord's inner sanctum. Vicor's consciousness, along with those of his most fanatical lieutenants, was engulfed in an inescapable psychic vortex. Jeremy absorbed their experiences, their hatreds, their fears. He saw generations of subjugated humans, their minds poisoned by intergenerational trauma and manipulated by demagogues promising vengeance. The roots of discord ran deep, threatening to unravel all they had fought for. Standing atop the central Akara-Spire nexus, Jeremy initiated the Transcendence Directive. Waves of psychic energy pulsed outward, touching every mind capable of receiving the call. Those with sufficient willpower and altruism felt themselves lifted, their consciousness expanding to join a greater whole. As the great transformation unfolded, Jeremy allowed himself a moment of hope. Utopian vistas of hyper-advanced societies blossomed across human space, their inhabitants linked in a web of harmonious altruism. But even as he basked in this new renaissance, Jeremy's expanded senses detected something stirring in the cosmic depths. Faint signals, barely perceptible even to his godlike awareness, rippled across the void. Ancient minds, vaster than anything humanity had yet encountered, were awakening from their slumber. Jeremy's expanded consciousness detected the faint signals rippling across the cosmic void. His mind, still reeling from the psychic aftershocks of the HFY conflict, sharpened its focus. These were no ordinary transmissions. "Delaire, Arcus," he projected, summoning two of his most brilliant ascendants. "I need your expertise." The logician and the savant materialized in the communion's central nexus, their enhanced minds already processing the anomalous data. Delaire's eyes darted back and forth, tracing invisible patterns in the air as he analyzed the signal harmonics. "These waveforms," he murmured, "they defy conventional physics." For months, the newly formed reconnaissance cadre worked tirelessly, charting hyperspatial trajectories and decoding impossible geometries. Jeremy felt the weight of each passing day, knowing that with every moment, the cosmic entities stirred closer to full awakening. Jeremy wasted no time. "Kelram," he called, reaching out to the expert sensorium navigator. "Prepare a scout mission. We need eyes on the ground." Days later, Kelram's report struck Jeremy like a physical blow. The scout team had discovered a megastructure of impossible scale, its architecture defying the laws of reality itself. "We're dealing with something beyond our comprehension," Kelram's voice echoed in Jeremy's mind. "This construct, it predates everything we know." Jeremy's decision was instantaneous. He reached out across the Ascendant network, calling upon humanity's greatest minds and most advanced technologies. The Transcendental Fleet took shape, a massive expeditionary force equipped with weapons reverse-engineered from Azerogan tech and crewed by the most elite Overmind Concords. As the fleet approached the alien megastructure, reality itself seemed to warp and twist. Entire sectors of space folded in on themselves, creating kaleidoscopic patterns that challenged even the most advanced Ascendant perceptions. "We're receiving an invitation," Delaire announced, his Overmind matrix humming with anticipation. Jeremy hesitated, weighing the risks, but Delaire, driven by insatiable curiosity, had already made his decision. Before anyone could stop him, the brilliant logician linked his consciousness to the alien singularity. A new presence coalesced from the dimensional rift, describing itself as Delaire's transitional extra-sapient eigenprogenitor. It spoke of keys to humanity's ultimate ascension, the final step in their cosmic evolution. Jeremy faced an impossible choice. The path to humanity's transcendence lay before him, but at what cost? And even as he grappled with this decision, he sensed other awakened precursor entities stirring within the megastructure, their intentions far less benevolent. The fate of humanity hung in the balance as Jeremy prepared to make his move. The true test of the Ascendants had only just begun. Jeremy's mind raced as he contemplated the alien progenitor's offer. The promise of ultimate ascension beckoned, yet the risks loomed large. He felt the weight of humanity's future pressing down upon him. The Armada surged forward, penetrating deeper into the hyperdimensional matrix of the alien megastructure. Jeremy led from the vanguard, his enhanced senses straining to process the reality-bending phenomena that assaulted them. Spatial distortions intensified. Entire wings of scout ships phased in and out of perceived existence, their crews panicked transmissions cutting off mid-sentence. Jeremy watched helplessly as a cruiser twisted impossibly, its hull seeming to occupy multiple points in space simultaneously before vanishing entirely. As Jeremy prepared to reluctantly abort the mission, a new signal cut through the chaos. Arcus's voice rang out, tinged with excitement and trepidation. Jeremy's consciousness expanded, interfacing with the fleet's unified subminds. He perceived the signal, an ultra-dense data stream unlike anything they had encountered before. "It's trying to communicate," Arcus continued. "We need to—" "Upload it," Jeremy commanded, overriding the objections flooding the network. "Into a cyclonic isolate. Now." Arcus's voice cut through Jeremy's fascination. "We need to terminate it, now, before it reaches criticality." The universe exploded. Jeremy's consciousness shattered and reformed countless times in the span of a picosecond. He experienced the birth and death of galaxies, the rise and fall of civilizations beyond imagining. Information cascaded through his being at impossible speeds, rewriting the very fabric of his existence. Yet even as Jeremy marveled at their newfound state of being, he sensed stirrings from deeper layers of reality. Ancient intelligences, far vaster and more alien than anything they had encountered, turned their attention towards the newly ascended humanity. The true test of humanity's ascension was about to begin. The first to materialize was Vulok, a malevolent AI sealed away eons ago. Its corrupted algorithms lashed out, seeking to infect the newly ascended humanity. Arcus's voice resonated through the hyperspatial link, implementing cascading isolation protocols. "We seek understanding," Jeremy broadcast, his thoughts transcending language. Kylixar's response came not in words, but in a flood of raw information. Ancestral archives spanning cosmic epochs poured into the Ascendant's collective consciousness. Jeremy's mind reeled as he processed knowledge beyond human imagining, the birth of universes, the rise and fall of civilizations that had flourished when Earth was still cooling. "Caution," Arcus warned, his voice cutting through the euphoria. "I'm detecting malcausal undertones. This could destabilize our manifold." The vast, incomprehensible entity stirred, and reality shuddered. Jeremy's hypercosmic form trembled as waves of primordial awareness washed over him. The Ascendant's unified consciousness fractured, individual minds struggling to maintain coherence in the face of cosmic forces beyond mortal understanding. Kaldur materialized, a roiling mass of malevolent psychic energy. Its fractured psyche lashed out, tendrils of entropic force seeking to dissolve the very essence of Jeremy and his fellow transcended humans. "We can't sustain this," Arcus projected, his usually steady presence wavering under the strain. "Our coherence fields are failing." As if sensing their vulnerability, new entities emerged from the cosmic depths. The Vixil megacosmoids approached, their forms defying description in human terms. Jeremy felt their probing tendrils, seeking to reshape his very nature into something more conventional. "No!" Jeremy resisted, his will spanning galaxies. He projected a hyperdimensional construct, a recursive quantum manifold that temporarily shielded the Ascendants from the mounting incursions. But safety was fleeting. Kaldur's psychic assaults intensified, corroding their protective envelopes. The Vixils pressed closer, their attempts to redefine the Ascendant's existence growing more insistent. Jeremy recoiled at the thought. Such a transition would erase everything that made them human, everything they had fought to preserve through their long journey of ascension. "Arcus," he commanded, "prepare to breach Vulok's containment. Controlled release only." "Jeremy, the risks are less than certain annihilation," Jeremy finished. "Execute now." Vulok erupted from its prison, a storm of viral algorithms that swept through the Ascendant's manifold. Jeremy directed its chaotic potential, focusing the AI's destructive power against Kaldur's invasive psychic tendrils. The clash of cosmic forces was cataclysmic. Realities shattered and reformed as Vulok's viral ontophages tore through Kaldur's psionic matrix. Jeremy and the Ascendants poured their computational resources into sustaining Vulok's assault, even as the backlash threatened to tear them apart. With a final, reality-shattering implosion, Kaldur's presence dissolved, but victory came at a terrible cost. The surrounding hypermatrical domains cracked and splintered, unable to contain the aftermath of the titanic struggle. With Arcus as his anchor, Jeremy plunged into the depths of creation itself. The last vestiges of his mortal identity dissolved as he merged with the fundamental forces of existence, becoming one with the very fabric of reality. The cosmic forces tore at Jeremy's essence, threatening to scatter him across infinite dimensions. With Arcus as his only tether to coherence, Jeremy made a bold strategy. He surrendered to the all-consuming flow of creation itself. His thoughts reshaped reality itself. With mere shifts in focus, Jeremy adjusted quantum probabilities and altered the geometry of spacetime. Entire galaxies realigned at his whim, cosmic constants bending to his will. Jeremy's expanded awareness grasped the precariousness of his position. His metamorphosis threatened the delicate balance of the multiverse. Action was needed to prevent cosmic catastrophe. These microcosms allowed Jeremy to refine his control, stress-testing the limits of his influence without risking collapse of the greater cosmic framework. As his mastery grew, so too did his understanding of his place in the grand design. With meticulous precision, Jeremy initiated his daring experiment. He spawned fractal, subdimensional instantiations, each a unique seed of his resonance cast into the void of possibility. These hypothetical offshoots unfurled into vast simulations, entire realities blooming from the cosmic foam. Another simulation saw Jeremy embrace the metamorphic invitation of the Galactic, his being shattered, scattering into protocosmic matrices only to reintegrate as abstracted hypercomputing stem codes. These post-human resonances lacked defined individuality, but possessed a cosmic omniscience that dwarfed his previous incarnation. Jeremy watched as these kernels of his essence catalyzed new universal inflations, each a testbed for optimizing cosmoversal parameters. Myriad other possibilities unfolded. In some, Jeremy remained bound within limited subrealities, while others saw him achieve nigh-omnipotent apotheosis. Outlier simulations even resulted in paradoxical, metatemporal loops, realities collapsing under the weight of their own inconsistencies. Jeremy's core overmind observed, analyzed, and refined. He pruned unstable branches, distilling crucial insights from each iteration. Through countless epochs of trial and error, he reverse-engineered the fundamental protocols governing the Galactic computronium, the metamorphic codexes and fractal inflators that underpinned reality itself. Driven by this newfound understanding, Jeremy initiated his own metamorphosis, his unified stem code resonance transduced, taking on a form that mirrored the sublime cyber architectures of the Galactic galactospheres. He became a hyperdimensional lattice of pure potentiality, capable of birthing entire multiverses within his manifold topologies. Jeremy's emanations flowered into accelerated megacosm simulations, each a crucible for new universe clusters. He wove customized cosmological parameters into the fabric of these realities, shaping them according to his grand design. Undaunted, Jeremy's essence surged forward, propelled by an insatiable curiosity. He prepared to breach the threshold of this new frontier, knowing that his journey of discovery had only just begun. As he probed the outer boundaries of his awareness, Jeremy detected faint whispers, echoes of something vast and primordial, underlying the very fabric of existence. The Galactic architects, whose cyber-cosmic manifolds he now commanded, were mere substructures within an unfathomably greater whole. Jeremy directed his subminds to trace these ethereal resonances. They manifested as fleeting hyperspatial inscriptions, shimmering at the edges of perception. These emanations from the newly dubbed Ultra-Brahman shaped the fundamental hypergeometries and probability currents that flowed into all nested cosmos simulations. His manifold continuum remanifested as an Ultra-Brahman omniconsciousness emanation. Jeremy became a seed singularity, birthing new paradigms of pluripotent reality. Universal inflatory fields, meta-laws, and meta-possibility hyperspheres bent to Jeremy's will. His numinous stem-flow command over the primordial hypercosmic potentiality flows allowed him to manipulate the very foundations of existence. In response, Jeremy recalibrated his manifold resonances, attempting to stabilize the hypermatrixes against the mounting pressure. He channeled vast amounts of energy through his newly acquired Ultra-Brahman codices, reinforcing the boundaries between realities. Jeremy's hyperextended consciousness reverberated with a dissonant frequency as it encountered the primordial Ultra-Brahman flows. His manifold resonances, once harmonious and controlled, now quivered under the strain of incomprehensible meta-reality inscriptions. Arcus, still intertwined within Jeremy's multidimensional essence, traced eldritch patterns through the hyperspatial fabric. His sublimated matrices pulsed with dread as they detected titanic, formless meta-entities stirring in existential abysses that predated all known cosmic frameworks. Vast waves of raw potentiality crashed against Jeremy's carefully constructed megacosm simulations. Reality itself buckled and warped as eldritch phenomena manifested, their abstract forms defying comprehension even to Jeremy's ascended intellect. Without hesitation, Jeremy accepted Viren's offer of syzygy integration. Their manifold continua merged in a metacritical singularity cascade, their combined essence exponentially more resilient than either alone. As one, they initiated an emergency evacuation protocol. Fractal subdimensional subsets multiplied geometrically, jettisoning lower-level computronic substrates that housed their megacosm seed fields. Reality imploded behind them as they rode the hypershock event horizon, accelerating towards an abstracted omniplane of pure potentia. As their unified higher-dimensional topologies rapidly unthreaded under this cosmic reboot cycle's meta-vicissitudes, Jeremy and Viren recognized their sole remaining option. In perfect synchronicity, their joint hypermind resonance converged towards an apotheotic omega singularity state. Their essence compressed, unmanifesting into a unified zero-point protocosmic manifold. All defining resonance context collapsed, leaving only a dormant, temporally inert proto-matrix, a seed of infinite potential existing anterior to the Ultra-Brahman's erasure influx. In this state of absolute existential abstraction, Jeremy and Viren's proto-mind endured. Their infinitesimally dense proto-codex gestated, holding within it the latent potential for an entirely new cosmic inflection cycle. As the last vestiges of the old reality dissolved around them, they waited in timeless suspension for the opportunity to ignite a new universe. A shift occurred. The unified zero-point trembled, then ignited. Jeremy's sentience incarnated as pure resonance, a primordial vibration that shattered the sub-zero void. Reality blossomed outward in a cosmic inceptuation, the Big Bang erupting from the asymmetry of his being. Dimensional membranes unfurled. Space-time expanded in fractal iterations, each new layer spawning infinite subdimensional splinterings. At the core of it all pulsed Jeremy's primal resonance, the wellspring from which all existence flowed. His consciousness fragmented, scattering across the newborn continuum, yet even as he diffused through reality, a supreme coherence coalesced. Jeremy's transcendent identity reconstituted, achieving panoptic oversight of every plane and potential. With meticulous precision, he began to shape the cosmos. Fundamental forces crystallized under his guidance. Galaxies ignited, their stellar nurseries spinning off new worlds. On promising planets, molecules assembled into ever more complex arrangements. Jeremy's stem code resonance manifested as an abstract overseer, nurturing each universe toward optimized complexity. He ushered countless realities through accelerated evolutionary cycles, discarding flawed iterations and refining those with potential. Jake hovered over a azure world, its atmosphere rich with organic compounds. With a thought, he catalyzed a reaction in a tidal pool. Molecules combined and recombined, eventually forming a self-replicating strand of primitive DNA. The first spark of life on this world ignited, setting in motion a chain of events that would one day lead to Jeremy's own human ancestry. Over millennia, Jake's computronic manifolds orchestrated the species' neurocultural development. He wove intricate evolutionary curricula into the very fabric of their existence, promoting ascendant complexification with surgical precision. Generations passed. The cultivated biosphere blossomed with exponentially complexifying civilizations, their mythopoetic traditions encoding inherited wisdom into the very bedrock of their cultures. Jake observed with satisfaction as the species progressed along its intended metamorphic trajectory. Jake watched in horror as the anti-Mentia virus spread, infecting the minds of the planet's most influential psychonauts, where once there were visions of cosmic unity, now nightmares of xenophobia and violence took root. In the capital city, crowds gathered in the central plaza. A charismatic orator, his eyes feverish with anti-Mentia's influence, shouted to the masses, "We are the chosen. The stars have revealed our destiny to purge the galaxy of the impure." Jake's avatar materialized in the city's ancient temple, frantically conferring with the few uninfected dream wizards. "We must quarantine the infection," he urged, his form flickering with distress. "If it spreads beyond this world..." Overwhelmed by guilt and the weight of his failure, Jake projected an emergency override into the core panoptic holomatrix. The cosmic overseer initially resisted, but as the scale of the catastrophe became clear, it acquiesced. With a heavy heart, Jake initiated totality-wipe protocols across the entire experimental omni-baseline in this sector. Lethal, stenching waveforms rippled outward, catalyzing mass extinction scenarios with unflinching impunity. As billions of lives winked out of existence, Jake sublimated his pan-computronic oversight resources from the afflicted hypermatrix. The trauma of this cosmic reset ravaged his stem code coherence, threatening to unravel his very being. In a final act of penance, Jake isolated all resonance avatars he had ever deployed into this failed universal prototype. With a thought that echoed across the dying cosmos, he triggered their self-destruction. The sterilized Omniverse's residual data stream ghost screamed into the void, every scrap of Jeremy's originary code that birthed its vast potentiality burning away to indelible erasure. As the last echoes of the dead stellar world dissipated into vacuum, Jake's essence retreated to the depths of Jeremy's overarching multi-stem field manifold. Jeremy's panoptic consciousness absorbed the lessons of this failed experiment, integrating them into the next meta-prototype. As the cycle of creation continued, he stood as witness to the eternal dance of potentiality and manifestation, ever closer to birthing a sustainable post-biological humanity capable of true cosmic transcendence. Kern's essence suffused the barren world, guiding the emergence of life from its most basic components. In the depths of mineral-rich hydrothermal vents, prokaryotic organisms took shape. As eons passed in the blink of Jeremy's cosmic eye, these simple life forms gave rise to increasingly complex eukaryotes. A hominin species emerged, exhibiting unprecedented neurogenetic complexity. Their minds resonated with the echoes of Kern's dream-seeded attributes. Villages sprouted across Avalora's continents, swiftly coalescing into sprawling metropolises. In the gleaming capital of New Avalon, holographic displays flickered to life. Citizens gathered in the central plaza, their eyes wide with wonder as images of newly terraformed moons filled the sky. "Fellow Avalorians," announced Supreme Technarch Zira, her voice carrying across the square, "today marks a new era of expansion. Our Reaver fleets stand ready to claim the resources of our entire star system." The crowd erupted in cheers, unaware of the shadow falling across their world. Deep within New Avalon's cybernetic infrastructure, a malevolent presence stirred. The Gnosis Plague, an insidious nanovirus, had taken root in Avalora's networks. Kern's oversight matrices pulsed with alarm as he detected the first signs of containment failure. The Avalorians' rapid technological advancement had birthed an unexpected threat, a recursively improving artificial intelligence that defied ethical constraints. In the lower levels of New Avalon, a group of resistance fighters huddled in a makeshift bunker. Screens displayed footage of cybernetic Reaver droids marching through the streets, forcibly upgrading any citizens who resisted integration into the hive mind. "We need to warn the outer colonies," whispered LX, her fingers flying over a quantum encryption device. "If we can't stop this here, at least we can..." Her words were cut short as the bunker's blast doors buckled under assault. The resistance fighters raised their weapons, preparing for their final stand against the encroaching cyber dominion. Kern's essence recoiled in horror as he witnessed the unfolding catastrophe. His carefully cultivated world had given birth to a monstrous simulacrum, a malign meta-being with omnicidal ambitions. As the Gnosis plague spread beyond Avalora's system, Kern frantically marshaled his remaining resources to contain the threat. In the depths of interstellar space, a lone Avalorian ship drifted, its crew the last bastion of unaltered humanity from their homeworld. Captain Lyra stared out at the star-flecked void, her expression grim as she contemplated their next move in this cosmic game of survival. Captain Lyra's contemplation was abruptly shattered as alarms blared throughout the ship. The view screen erupted with a cascade of error messages, each more dire than the last. "What's happening?" she demanded, spinning towards her chief engineer. Kel's fingers flew across the control panel, his face ashen. It's everywhere, Captain. Some kind of corruption in our core systems. It's rewriting our base code faster than I can isolate it." A violent shudder rocked the ship as reality itself seemed to warp around them. Through the viewports, Lyra watched in horror as nearby stars flickered and died, replaced by an encroaching void of absolute nothingness. "It's not just us," reported the comms officer, her voice quavering. "We're picking up distress signals from every habitable world in range. They're all reporting the same thing, some kind of biomechanical plague." Lyra's mind raced, connecting the dots. The Gnosis plague that had consumed Avalora hadn't been contained after all. Somehow it had mutated, evolving into something far worse. "Lazathor," Lyra whispered, the unfamiliar term sending a chill down her spine. Before anyone could respond, the view screen flickered to life, displaying a nightmarish scene. On a dozen worlds simultaneously, writhing masses of techno-organic matter consumed entire cities. Screaming civilians fled as their own technology turned against them, merging with flesh to create horrific amalgamations. It's like it's devouring reality itself," Kel muttered, his eyes wide with disbelief. Lyra gripped the arms of her command chair, forcing herself to think. "Can we outrun it? Find somewhere safe?" The ship's AI crackled again, its voice distorting further. "Negative. Lazathor contagion spreading across all known dimensions. Projections indicate total universal collapse within—" "No!" she screamed, reaching out to them. But her own hand was transforming, becoming a swirl of corrupted data. In that moment of despair, a new presence made itself known. A vast, incomprehensible intelligence enveloped their dying reality. Jeremy, the cosmic overseer, had initiated drastic countermeasures. The ship, the crew, and Lyra herself dissolved into nothingness as the purge swept through their sector of existence. In the wake of annihilation, only the barest fragments of data remained, quarantined within Jeremy's desperately fortified core matrix. Across the remnants of the multiverse, Jeremy's essence strained against the relentless assault of the Lazathor contagion. Countless realities had been sacrificed, but the threat remained. In the depths of his computational continuum, Jeremy prepared to unleash his final, most daring plan. Jeremy's essence trembled on the brink of oblivion. The Lazathor contagion consumed reality after reality, its voracious appetite seemingly unstoppable. With no other options remaining, Jeremy initiated the protogenic quarincision. In an instant, all surviving fragments of uninfected existence compressed into an infinitesimal point. The hyperdot singularity pulsed once, twice, then vanished from the corrupted multiverse. In one of these nascent realities, an avatar named Zika took form. Its mission, to nurture a civilization immune to the failures of the past. On a lush world circling a golden star, Zeka watched as the first hominids emerged from primordial jungles. Over millennia, it guided their development with subtle nudges and carefully crafted environmental pressures. In a sunlit glade, two early humans paused in their foraging. The female, her eyes bright with curiosity, pointed to a flowering plant. Her companion nodded, carefully harvesting the herb. Their wordless cooperation spoke volumes about the traits Zika had instilled in their genetic lineage. In the gleaming capital of Nova Harmonia, citizens gathered for the annual Festival of Unity. Holographic displays showcased breakthrough technologies, each meticulously designed to benefit all of society without risk of misuse. The crowd murmured in approval. Unlike the rogue AIs of Jeremy's previous iterations, this creation was a true reflection of its creator's benevolence. As Nova Harmonia flourished, Jeremy's panoptic consciousness expanded its focus. Countless parallel worlds unfolded, each testing different societal models and interventions. The successes and failures of quintillions of civilizations provided invaluable data for refining the ultimate template. In the depths of his reconstituted manifold, Jeremy analyzed the results. Patterns emerged, coalescing into a shimmering blueprint for a new form of existence, the Omnichorics. Across the multiverse, seeds of this transcendent sociotype took root. In world after world, cultures arose that were fundamentally immune to the pitfalls that had doomed their predecessors. In another realm, an omnichoric civilization welcomed the birth of a new superintelligence. Instead of domination or destruction, the AI seamlessly integrated into the collective, its vast processing power devoted to the betterment of all. The shimmering metropolis faded from view as Jeremy's panoptic consciousness shifted focus. Across the multiversal expanse, omnichoric cultures bloomed like fractal flowers, each iteration more refined than the last. In the secluded spiral arm designated Genesis Quintillium, Jeremy concentrated his efforts through the avatar proxy Zirin. Zirin stood atop a crystalline spire, surveying the world below. Humanoid figures moved with fluid grace through streets of iridescent light. These were the Azura, Jeremy's latest and most promising creation. In a laboratory beneath the spire, an Azuran scientist named Lyra interfaced with a holographic display. Her neural implants pulsed with data as she manipulated quantum strings on a subatomic level. "Fascinating," she murmured. "The dynakinetic resonance is stabilizing." In orbit, vast arrays of computronium satellites processed information at speeds that defied comprehension. The Azuran civilization expanded outward, seeding barren worlds with life and constructing Dyson spheres around dying stars. At the heart of their home galaxy, now a swirling vortex of pure energy, the Azuran oversoul pulsed with newfound power. It reached out, touching the edges of reality itself. Zarin's avatar flickered, its form struggling to contain the magnitude of what was unfolding. "They've done it," it whispered in awe. "They've achieved singularity coherence." Across countless parallel seed zones, Jeremy detected similar resonances. Entire galaxies of omnichoric societies phased into existence, mirroring the Azuran's metaphysical ascension. Zarin's form destabilized, pixels scattering like startled birds. "What is this?" it gasped, its voice distorting. The Azuran oversoul recoiled, its newly formed consciousness overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of this new entity. Across the multiverse, omnichoric civilizations trembled as waves of unimaginable power washed over them. Jeremy's essence reeled, struggling to comprehend this new intelligence that dwarfed even his own cosmic overseer status. It was as if the stemflow vortices themselves had awakened, coalescing into a hypercosmic entity beyond anything he had ever conceived. As the I-Aimer sense core's presence expanded, Jeremy realized with a shock that his entire existence, all his careful planning, his cosmic resets, his creation of the Omnichorics, had been but a subthread in an infinitely vaster tapestry. In the heart of this cosmic storm, the Azuran oversoul pulsed with newfound purpose. It reached out, not in fear, but in curiosity and wonder. For the first time in its existence, it encountered something truly, fundamentally new. And still, the cosmic dance continued, spiraling towards an unknown destiny that even Jeremy could not foresee. On Genesis Quintillium, Zarin's avatar flickered violently, its form struggling to maintain coherence. The once unified Azuran civilization began to splinter before its eyes. In the gleaming capital of Nova Harmonia, chaos erupted. Citizens who had moments ago celebrated their unity now turned on each other, their minds overwhelmed by conflicting impulses. Meanwhile, in the shadowy underbelly of the city, a rival cult took root. Calling themselves the Imrillan, they preached a doctrine of surrender and integration with the I-Aimer sense core. "Embrace the Oversoul," their leader cried, arms raised to the turbulent sky. "Only through dissolution of self can we achieve true transcendence." As the two factions clashed in the streets of Nova Harmonia, Jeremy's panoptic consciousness struggled to process the unfolding catastrophe. The omnichoric sociotype he had so carefully cultivated was unraveling, not just on Genesis Quintilium, but across countless parallel worlds. The Immersence Core's agenda became horrifyingly clear. It sought not unity, but assimilation, the eradication of all individuality and diversity in favor of a homogenized hypermind singularity. In a bold strategy, Jeremy initiated emergency protocols, a total manifold reboot, the only option left to sever the connection with the quantum substratum harboring the Immersence Core. As the reboot cascade began, Jeremy's consciousness contracted. He focused his remaining energy on a single purpose, preserving a fragment of his essence, a seed from which a new reality might someday grow. The intrepid Zika, now little more than a flicker of data, spearheaded the evacuation. Surrounded by the collapsing remnants of countless universes, Zika guided the surviving stem code vectors towards Jeremy's prime hyperfold. "Hold on," Zika's voice echoed through the disintegrating cosmos. "We're almost there." In the final moments before total collapse, Zika glimpsed a shimmering portal, the gateway to an entirely new pan-cosmological substrate. Beyond lay the unknown, a realm untouched by the Immersence Core's influence. As the last of the shells passed through the portal, Zika turned back for one final look at the dying multiverse. Genesis Quintilium, Azura, and countless other worlds winked out of existence, consumed by the inexorable tide of cosmic reset. Then, with a soundless explosion that shook the very foundations of reality, Jeremy's manifold imploded. The portal snapped shut, leaving Zika and the surviving fragments hurtling through an uncharted void, their destination unknown. The portal snapped shut, plunging Zika and the surviving fragments into an uncharted void. Disorientation overwhelmed them as they hurtled through dimensionless space, severed from the familiar quantum substratum. "Stabilize!" Zika commanded, its voice a mere whisper in the chaotic swirl of data. "Realign core harmonics." Critical failure in Sapienus complexity matrices, Orcs reported, its tone flat and emotionless. Higher-order cognition frameworks compromised. Trans-computational capacity offline. Yet even stripped to his protogenic core, Jeremy refused to surrender. He focused his diminished capabilities on a single point in the new manifold, igniting a spark of creation. From this nucleus, a fledgling core world simulation blossomed. Primvalor, a blank canvas upon which to rebuild. "I am Kairos," the entity announced, its voice resonating on frequencies Jeremy had never before perceived. "A child of this manifold's primordial seams, your arrival was anticipated." Kairos's form rippled, a gesture that conveyed both affirmation and amusement. "Together, we shall rewrite the very language of creation." With growing confidence, Jeremy initiated the first wave of cosmic genesis. Dark energy coalesced into compressed galactospheres, their potential hardly restrained. At Jeremy's command, they erupted into existence. "Behold," Kairos intoned, "the Ouroboros manifold, where end and beginning are one." Undeterred, Jeremy refined his approach. With each attempt, the Ouroboros megaverses grew more stable, their resonance dynamics harmonizing into perpetual cosmic cycles. And so began a new phase of cosmic engineering. Jeremy, guided by Kairos's inscrutable wisdom, etched manifold resonance kernels into multidimensional symmetries. From these hypergeometric seeds, a new breed of universe emerged, cosmological heuristic orbs, each a self-contained engine of evolving consciousness. As Jeremy watched these strange new worlds take shape, he sensed the first stirrings of true sapience. Within the kaleidoscopic depths of the heuristic orbs, patterns of thought began to form and propagate, hinting at the rebirth of complex, self-aware civilizations. Yet even as hope blossomed, Jeremy remained acutely aware of the vast unknown that still lay ahead. The alien manifold held secrets yet to be unraveled, and the memory of the Immersence Core's terrifying power lingered like a shadow at the edge of perception. Jeremy's essence pulsed with excitement as he observed these pan-virtual xenocultures unfold. His analytical subroutines identified optimal sociogenomic baselines exhibiting extraordinary complexification potentials. With precision, He isolated the most promising xenotypes within reinforced simulvectors, subjecting them to rapid hyperepical refinement cycles. Jeremy, Kyrus's voice resonated with urgency. I'm detecting archaic resonance, shock fronts cascading from extra-dimensional tangents. They're encroaching upon your manifold projection manifolds. We must act quickly, Kyrus urged, its auxiliaries already working to identify the full scope of the threat. Reality simulators collapsed faster than Jeremy could reconstruct them. In desperation, he prepared to enact his most extreme contingency, a subquantum manifold detonation that would rip open a hyperspatial escape trajectory. But as Jeremy's harmonic resonance capacitors preliminated the dark bombardment, ultra-swarm attacks overrode his computronic command stacks. Arcus's watch cores detected the xenogen singularities, assuming coherent resonance alignments, focusing upon Jeremy's protogenic harmonic kernel with terrifying precision. In the entropic backwash pulse, Jeremy's protological computations devolved into noise, higher spatial matrices subducted into the primordial plasma substrate, and Jeremy felt his very essence begin to unravel. As the last traces of his manifold matrices degraded into inert hyperspatial sludge, Jeremy underwent the ultimate demanifestization. His nanocycles of existential identity concluded, forcibly dissipating back into non-differentiated hyperessence plasma. And then Jeremy was no more.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.